And before we begin, a couple of house rules. So for the duration of the workshop, I would prefer if everyone remain muted. And if you have any questions, do write them down or take note of it. And towards the end of the workshop, there will be a Q&A session. Or maybe in between, I might open it up to Q&A also. We'll see how it goes. And yeah, I guess if you have something that you like to bring up immediately, you could type it in chat in Adventurers Hub, and I will like have a look at chat on and off. And so with that, let us begin. Okay, I see a couple of people still coming in.
This is so relaxing.
We'll begin. So welcome to a guide to playing D&D online. And today's session will be a pretty special one, and we'll be covering 4 main items: character sheets, platforms that you can play on, and also where can you find online games, and finally we have questions and answers. And just to kickstart today, this workshop is perfect for people who are getting into D&D, and it's also perfect for people who have been D&D veterans for as long as you can remember, and you like to bring your games online. You know, now having the whole entire pandemic upon us, it's been difficult to have tabletop gatherings. So we'll be exploring that. Okay, hold on. Let me quickly get Mike in. Okay, let's continue. So for those who are new, Dungeons and Dragons is essentially a role-playing game, and you would know when you played your first session that it transcends the physical form on the table. It brings you places that you've never been before, and today we will explore, for the veteran players, if the experiences that you have at your current physical tables, is it possible that all of that is achieved through the digital realm? And so let's talk about character sheets. So for those unfamiliar, a character sheet is essentially a piece of paper that you jot down all your character's stats. And if you do it the traditional way, you'll be probably printing a template or something, and you just jot down the stats there. But if you're going to do it digitally, what are your options? So you have, I'm pretty sure there are a lot of options that you can do. But the most popular one for digital would be D&D Beyond. And obviously there are some people who run it pen and paper. And there are others as well. So what goes into others would be, I've seen people use Excel sheets. You know, they key in like their little calculations and formulas so that it calculates certain stats properly. But I would suggest D&D Beyond if you are going to play online. It is super simple to set up. It is very new player friendly. It is very versatile. There are a lot of integrations with different virtual tabletops, which we'll go in later. It's very easy to maintain your character there. You wouldn't need to erase your stats and write it again, and as you would with a pen and paper. And it's also printable. So if you were to create your character on D&D Beyond, you could still print it out and hop on to your local game store or your friend's house for a physical game. And okay, we'll talk about pen and paper a little bit. This is the classic setup. It is physical. It is, however, homebrew friendly. So what I mean by that is, if you have some homebrew rules, where maybe you have some special items in your adventure, or just some special rules that you have, it's easy to just jot down notes compared to using an existing platform. But all in all, I would say D&D Beyond, the pros outweigh the cons a lot. And let's go into a short little demo. So over here is D&D Beyond. I will share a link for those who would like to follow on. So there's the link for D&D Beyond in chat. And once you've signed up for an account, simply head over to characters in the top right. And over here you'll be able to see all your characters. So I have 3 characters right now, Bjork, Flora and Lorwyn. I'll bring everyone through a new character build. So you would get 3 options. Quick build is essentially you key in a name, pick your race, pick your class, and the system will just randomize everything for you and just pop you a character. Randomize is, as it's named, completely randomized. Let's go with standard, and if you need the help text, you can click on it as well. I'll just enable it for the demo. So this is the first thing that you see. It has some instructions here. This is the beginner's help text. And first of all, want to name our character. Let's name him Demo Dude. And you have preferences that you can set as to what sources you'd like to allow this character to use. If you are playing classic D&D with that's in the Forgotten Realms, just turn everything off. Moving down, you can set various settings. As a new player, you do not need to touch anything. Just name your character and click next. Everything else is set to be like, this is like the default setting and it's fine. You wouldn't need to change anything. So go ahead, click next. So now we'll be choosing our race. And here you can pick from a list of races. You might not see what I see right now because I own a couple of books on D&D Beyond. I'll go into that later shortly. So if you filter it by the player's handbook, you'll be able to find races that are available to the player's handbook. And let's make Demo Dude a dwarf and a mountain dwarf. It gives you more information you can read on. Choose race, and moving down you'll be able to see that there are different features, and if there is something that you need to fill up, it will highlight it with this blue little icon here. So click on that, and here we get a choice. So make your choice. I'll quickly breeze through it for the sake of the demo. And after choosing your race, you'll pick your class. And picking your class is again entirely up to you what you want to build. And let's make Demo Dude a cleric. And again, you'll get information on the classes here. You can read it on your own time. And okay, so our hit points is, we get information on our hit points here. And we get to pick some proficiency. So anything with blue, it basically means that you have an option there. So here we can choose. I'm just gonna randomly pick Insight and Persuasion. Moving down, we get to pick our Divine Domain. Where are we from? And let's just pick something simple like the Life Domain. Okay. And once that's done, we'll move on to ability scores. Over here, you get 3 methods of generating your ability scores. So for those of you who like to roll dice, you can go with the manual way, where you can simply just roll your dice and fill in. Let's say I have a 13 in strength and so on for your other stats. That's totally up to you. If you like to use standard array, that is also available. You get to pick from a list. My favorite would be point buy, where you get points and you can assign it accordingly. And so we'll just quickly pour in our stats here. Just randomly go for it. Okay. So once this is done, you can scroll down. There'll be information on your ability stats. And after that, once you're done, you can just click next, and here we have description. So here you get to pick your character background and pick an option. Let's say he is a noble, and you get some description on the background. And moving down, you have a couple of choices. Make sure you pick whatever options that you're given. Don't want to be missing out. And let's just go with that. And once that is done, you can, if you're interested, you could go down and fill in, add more flavor to your character. So here you can add personality traits. Of course, this does not affect your game mechanically in any way, but you can add it here and there. Gives more story to your character, which is great. I'm just gonna randomly pick a few. Moving down, we have things such as your alignment. Eric, could you mute your mic, please? Thank you. And moving on, we have alignment. Here you get to choose your character's alignment. And let's say he is a lawful good noble cleric. You can also key in your faith, if any. Choose your lifestyle. Even add on your physical characteristics. Key in whatever you like. I'm just gonna... And your personal characteristics will be added down here. Hi, welcome. Felix, could you please mute your mic? And I will continue. Once you're done with description, you can move on to equipment. So over here, you can choose your starting equipment, whether you like it to be a fixed selection, or maybe you like to roll for gold. This is entirely up to you again. And go ahead, pick whatever you like. I'm just gonna randomly pick a few. And just go ahead and click add starting equipment. And with that, we can move on. And what's next? Your character is done. So here we have Demo Dude, who is our Mountain Dwarf Cleric of the Life Domain. And this will be your D&D Beyond character sheet. You have all your information here. If you go into spells, you would notice that spells are not added yet. You can simply go into manage spells and learn a couple of cantrips. The entire list will be here. And let's just prepare a couple of spells as well. With that done, move on over to equipment. And in equipment, you can choose to equip your chainmail. You'll notice that my armor class is currently 11. But once I equip my chainmail, it bumps it up to 16. And you can equip your other weapons as well, and it will appear in your actions. So over here, you can see that I have my mace equipped, and my hit is +4, and damage dice. And with D&D Beyond, you can actually roll dice in D&D Beyond itself. This, however, only you can see it. So it's not like you roll dice and everyone can see. We'll go into that later. But that will conclude our D&D Beyond character demo. That's how you create a character in D&D Beyond. And let's continue on with our workshop. Next, let's talk about platforms. So, where can we have our adventures once we've created our characters? So, there are a lot of different platforms that you could play on, but these are probably the most popular. Roll20 would be the number one. It's widely known on in the D&D online community. Fantasy Grounds is also similar to Roll20. It's another virtual tabletop. Foundry is a new virtual tabletop that's recently come out. I personally use Foundry, and during the demo later, I'll be demoing using the Foundry platform. But these three platforms in the box, these are virtual tabletops. So essentially what virtual tabletops are, it simulates a table. You can place your tokens, you can roll dice, and everything on the platform. And lastly, you can also play on Discord, as in purely Discord. And we'll go over a couple of ways that you can do that. Let's have a look at how we can play using Discord. So I have a demo channel here prepared. So you can install something called Avre. You don't need to install it. It's basically a bot where when you invite it to your Discord server, it would be able to roll dice for you and do your character checks and whatnot. And it also supports integration with D&D Beyond. So I will go through how we can play using Avre on Discord. So first we want to link our character. So you simply type the commands. There is a list of commands on the Avre website. I've already prepared a character. So if I go to character, you'll be able to see that my currently active character is Lorwyn Meyer. And if I want to have a look at my sheet, I'll be able to just type the commands and I can see, okay, my AC is 14, HP 9, and all my relevant stats here. And so your adventure can begin as simply as everyone hopping into a voice channel on the left. Your DM could be there as well, and you can just start. So let's say Lorwyn needs to make a athletics check. So there is a command for that. You just type check athletics. Athletics. And there we go. Lorwyn makes an athletics check. So you can see that he rolled a d20 and he rolled a 10. He has no modifiers for that, so results would be a 10. And if you like to make a saving throw, you can also do that. Let's do save Constitution. Yeah, let's do Wisdom. It's shorter type. And there we go. Lorwyn makes a Wisdom save. And let's go into combat. You can even do combat with Avre. As the DM, you would be able to initiate combat. So over here, you can see that Avre has initiated combat.
Oh, sorry to bother, but none of us can see anything on the screen.
Oh,
yeah, we only see Discord demo.
I see. Oh dear. Okay, hold on. Let me quickly swap on over.
Alright.
Alright. Okay. Let me roll back a little bit. So basically Avre lets you type various commands. So you can type help and Avre will PM you like a bunch of commands that you could use. The learning curve, I do admit, if you are not a very technical or tech savvy person, this might be a bit intimidating for you, but fear not, it is pretty simple to learn. Your DM should be able to guide you as you move along. So to import your character, it's simply typing Beyond and you paste your D&D Beyond character sheet here. So for example, if we want to import Demo Dude, I'm gonna quickly copy Demo Dude and I paste it in here. And you can see that Avre has loaded Demo Dude into Discord. And so if I would like to have a look at Demo Dude's sheet, this is the sheet. And let's say Demo Dude would like to make a athletics check again. And there we have it. So he rolled a d20, he rolled a 3, not that great, and he had a +4 modifier there. And it also works for saving throws, save Wisdom. There we have it. And let's say we want to go into combat. So I've already initiated combat up here. So all Demo Dude will need to type is I join. And you would be able to see that in the pinned messages, Avre has added Demo Dude into the initiative tracker with 21 for initiative. Natural 20 there. And as the DM, I can add a couple of goblins, let's say. Goblin, let's just add one. And you can see that we have a goblin there, and he is healthy. So let's say Demo Dude would like to attack the goblin. So all we need to do is move to Demo Dude's turn. And so it's Demo Dude's turn right now. And simply type the commands. I attack. Attack, and let's say he is gonna target. He's gonna hit with his mace, and he will target GO1. You can see that Demo Dude attacks with his mace, and unfortunately he misses. And let's just try that again. And this misses as well. Again. Give me a good roll, come on. Oh no. Demo Dude's missing. Alright, and there we go. So you can see that he rolled 17 to hit over here, which is a total 21. And that hits, and he dealt 6 points of bludgeoning damage, plus 2, including his modifiers, and he dealt 8 damage to Goblin 1, and Goblin 1 is dead. And if we have a look here, we can see that Avray has updated the initiative tracker, and Goblin 1 is dead. And if we move next, you would see that it moves over. And as the DM, you can have combat in Discord like this. I have run games fully on Discord before I started using a virtual tabletop, and this was how we did it. And I can end combat. Let's say combat ends. And it could essentially, yeah, you essentially play your whole game on Discord. This is how you play. If you would not like to use Avray, you could use pen and paper. So essentially, we're all in the voice channel, and let's say the DM, let's say I'm the DM, and I'll say, please make me a athletics check. And so your players could simply maybe pop on over to D&D Beyond. So maybe they'll pop on over to D&D Beyond, and he's gonna make me an athletics check. And he'll just tell you like, oh, I rolled a 14, and the DM would take that number. And yes, if you play your games like that, it would mean that as the DM and as the player, you would trust each other to not fake your rolls. Again, that's up to your playgroup. Different people have different preferences. And let's move back to presentation. And let's have a look at virtual tabletops now. Before virtual tabletops, like I said, you have Roll20 that you can play. There is Fantasy Grounds. I will paste all these links in Discord. So Eric, hold on to that question. I will answer it once we get to Q&A later. I'll paste a couple of links in Discord for you. And this is Foundry. So when you hop into a virtual tabletop, the interface would look similar to what you see now. And usually there is a chat that you can type. Hello. And you would have a token. So let's say I've brought in Lorwyn earlier. So I have Lorwyn here. So this is my token. And if I click on my token, I'll be able to see what Lorwyn sees. So as using a virtual tabletop, some virtual tabletops support, line of sight. So this way, Lorwyn can see through this window here. And he can have a peek at Billiam, who's inside here. And character sheets. There is integration for Foundry, as is the same for Roll20 and Fantasy Grounds as well. You are able to import your D&D Beyond character sheets into Foundry or into your respective virtual tabletops. And once in here, it's even better because I could click Insight right now and it rolls Insight for me. And that's a bad roll. Okay. So this includes your weapons. Let's say I'm striking with my crossbow. It rolls attack for me, it also rolls damage. And you could... This is how you would play. As the DM, I would have access to the monsters character sheet. And I'll be able to roll for attacks as well. If I want to hide my rolls, private GM roll, I could roll it. And this way the players will not be able to see what I rolled. This is hidden. You could add... there is a combat tracker as well, if you need to track combat. So let's include Lorwyn into combat, together with these two bandits. And let's just roll everyone's initiative. So we can begin. Combat will begin as such. Then we can move next, next, and so on. As the DM, you would be able to create your maps. So there are multiple maps that's available here. So I can switch between maps. I could drag my players into relevant maps if I need to. So let's say, yeah, I could just drag Lorwyn in here. Could move to, like, let's say I want to illustrate, like, okay, you're in an old shop right now and this is how the shop looks. You can do that as well. You can have various items. This depends on your virtual tabletops. I know that Roll20 and Fantasy Grounds also have their respective compendiums, we call it. And I'm not sure if Roll20 supports music. I think they do. Most of your virtual tabletops will also support music, and maybe you can have a playlist for combat, so when the party enters combat you could play the combat track. And maybe you want some background music as your game goes along, that's fine as well. And here we have access to a bunch of compendiums. These are compendiums that I've compiled as I created my games, and also spells. So this way I have it all saved into Foundry for me, and you could do the same for Roll20 and Fantasy Grounds, but it is slightly different, and I'll talk about it more maybe in questions and answers later. So this way, if let's say Lorwyn is here, and okay, let's say I want to add a spell for him, I could just drag the spell in, and whoa, Lorwyn knows Chain Lightning at level 2. And yeah, you can just drag, you can delete things. It's essentially an inbuilt character sheet into the virtual tabletop itself. And before I end the demo on virtual tabletops, let's have a look at making maps. So over here, you can see that this map, I drew this map in a program called Dungeon Fog. And Dungeon Fog allows, okay, so right now you can see a lot of watermarks is because my subscription just ended. I only subscribed for a week, and yeah, so I have no need for it right now. So yeah, I can't edit whatever, but the items that are not watermarked, those are the free options. You can use Dungeon Fog for free. You can make your maps for free, but you just get less choices in your assets, in your items. So here we could draw, like, you could draw walls inside, and there we go. I have a small little 2x2 there. Can add a wooden door and put props and all the other things. So say I want to put a carpet like here. Okay, so yeah, say it's a carpet. Yeah, carpet. So you can put a carpet here, you can put another one here. Can mess around and create your own maps for DMs. And for those who would like to know more, there are a couple of links here. Forgotten Adventures, they have a bunch of awesome, beautiful artwork that you could use. I'll get to your question later, Matt. And I find that I really like Neutral Parties battle maps. I use them quite a lot. He has a very I love his style. So yeah, look at that. It's beautiful. So you could even use this for your physical games. You could print it out, or you could download it and use it on your virtual tabletops. Let's come back here. So now we move on to where can you find games to play D&D online. I would say start local. These are a couple of links. You can join the Dungeons and Dragons Malaysia group. There is the Adventurers League of Malaysia group as well, and also RPG My. I'm pretty sure that there are way more role-playing game groups out there. Just Google and have a look around, and I'm pretty sure you'll find one. And yeah, the reason why I asked everyone to start local is because, you know, obviously, if let's say you do decide to get together for a game in the future, you would be able to do so. But once you've dipped your feet into the local scene and you like to explore, go ahead and explore the world. I've played games in Singapore before over Discord during the whole entire MCO period. I've played games from the US with all the different players in the West, and also our friends down south in Australia as well. So explore. You can Google around for various D&D Discord servers or groups online. And alright, we've come to questions and answers. So I will answer the questions typed in chat earlier. So Eric, you asked that the DM would not be able to control. Could the DM control if it hit or misses or any other results for Avre on Discord? Yes, you can actually. So let me quickly swap over. So for Avre, if let's say I did not want, let me quickly add another goblin here. Oh, hold on. Let me quickly begin combat first. And let's add a goblin. And we'll join in as well with demo dude. Okay. So let's say it's demo dude's attack. Let's move to his turn. Okay, demo dude's turn. And let's go attack mace. And yeah, let's just go attack mace. So you don't need to target. So what I did previously was I targeted Goblin 1. So this will automatically, Avre will roll the dice for me, and it will compare the attack value to the Goblin's AC. And Avre has a database of a lot of the monster's stats. So it will compare, and if it's more, it will automatically hit and deal damage. So if you do not want to do that, and you just want to keep it free and easy, so that as the DM you could adjust a little bit if you like, you could just ask him to roll. And let's say a 15, you could just tell like, oh, okay, that attack would hit or it would miss. And if you like to manually assign damage, you can also do that. So basically we do GO1, and we'll modify it, and let's say it deals 3 damage. And so Goblin 1 is injured. And as the DM, I would be able to see, Avre will DM me what the Goblin's HP is. Like, okay, Goblin 1 took 3 damage, and he is now left with 4 out of 7. So that's how you can do it on Discord. And let's see. We have Matt. Question from Matt, who says... Switch back over. The question from Matt. Okay. Are things like spells and monsters important for players too, or only the DM? So, for your virtual tabletops or in a game in general, as a player, you wouldn't need to know all this information. It's up to your DM. and also depending on how your DM would like to run their game. Some DMs will tell you that, okay, this monster has these stats or whatever, and some DMs just won't tell you anything, and you have to discover it yourself. And yes, Matt, as a player, will there be a way for us to know how much HP the enemy has? This, again, it's dependent on your DM, whether they would like to tell you the number. Usually they won't tell you the number. They will probably tell you like, oh, it's injured, or this looks badly injured, or like, oh, this is like almost dead, kind of. So there you go. Anyone else have any questions? If you'd like to voice out and ask, feel free to unmute yourself and ask a question. Yes, I feel that as a DM myself, I do like to run it in a way that you wouldn't know the exact HP of the monsters. It kind of keeps the player on edge, so that you keep an eye out on what's going on. Oh yes, of course. As the DM, I would have to know the hit points of the monsters. I do keep track. Yes. Yeah, as the DM, when you're preparing for the session, you would jot down the monster stat blocks, so you would know how much HP each monster has. Okay, Rage Quit, that's a very good question there. For other rule sets, correct? So it depends on the virtual tabletop that you are exploring. So for example, we have Fantasy Grounds here, and let's see, World of Darkness. I do not see World of Darkness here, but you can see that they do support D&D. There's Savage Worlds, Call of Cthulhu, Pathfinder, Castle Crusades, Starfinder, Traveller, and a whole bunch of other role-playing games out there. Okay, this is where I would recommend, if you are exploring, Foundry. Foundry is system agnostic, meaning that it is not tied to a specific system. So if I were to set up my Foundry, right now I'm using D&D, the system D&D, but I can actually change it and set my own rules if I need to. Okay, let me quickly go into how Roll20 Fantasy Grounds work. This might be a turnoff for some people, for existing players who've already owned some physical books, because if you would like to host your games on Roll20 or Fantasy Grounds, you will need to purchase the Player's Handbook, the digital version of the Player's Handbook under Roll20 to access the compendium, they call it. So if I move over to, let's have a look at browse and look at rulebooks, RPG rulebooks for games. Okay, so let's have a look at Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition. Excellent question, DJ. So for scheduling, I currently do not have a scheduler, but what I do have is I basically post it up on Discord and whatnot. For the Adventurers League of Malaysia, we do share a Excel sheet, a Google sheet, where we have all the different DMs, each of their sessions here. And so you can come by here from time to time and have a look at what games are available. And there are other places as well that use different scheduling systems. So I know that Discord has a bot that It's called RPG schedule or something like that. That you could set it up to organize your sessions. But that's as much as the tips that I can give you that I've encountered myself. So let me quickly have a look at... Okay, so here, Player's Handbook. So you can see that you would need to purchase the Player's Handbook in order to access the items while playing your game. If not, you would need to manually enter it yourself, which may be difficult if you are hosting like a couple of games. So for each game, you'll need to key in your information again and again. So the way Roll20 and Fantasy Grounds is set up is that they would encourage you to buy the Player's Handbook to use. Same goes for D&D Beyond. Okay. Gallet. So which is the best between Roll20, Foundry and Fantasy Grounds? For Malaysians, I would say that each of the platforms has their pros and cons. But most popular would definitely be Roll20. Most games that you find online, they are most likely played on Roll20, or they will be played on Discord, pure Theatre of the Mind, without any battle maps. I do not have a lot of experience with Fantasy Grounds, but I do know that they exist. Foundry is my personal choice, only because it is system agnostic, and it is a one-time payment compared to a subscription on Roll20 for a DM. I'm speaking from a DM side. As a player, to play on Roll20, Fantasy Grounds or Foundry, it's totally free. You wouldn't need to buy anything. It's mainly on the DM's part as you're setting up to have all the necessary prepared. Yes, Matt. D&D 5... Okay, E basically stands for edition. So 5E would basically mean 5th edition, and 4E basically means 4th edition. It's basically different rules. It's a different system. Anyone else with any questions? Oh yes, sure. I will share that right now for each of you. Share it over here. So let me quickly go into D&D Beyond. So again, D&D Beyond does sell source books, and in order for you as a player to access relevant information on D&D Beyond, you will need to purchase the source books. But fear not, if you like to play for free, it's totally fine. It's totally possible, because D&D Beyond has has everything in the basic rules available for free. So it's not to say that if you do not buy any source books that you can't play. You can, it's just that your options are limited. But you can have a full-fledged character. Yes. Okay, so as a DM, you would be able to share and manage your content with your players. So what I have is, you can see that for most of my campaigns, you can see that there is content sharing enabled. This means that each of my players who join via the campaign link will be able to access my content. So everyone here would have access to all my books. So as a player, they play for free, but they have options from the player's handbook. And let's see, I have Xanatar's Guide to Everything on D&D Beyond as well. So they have access, they would be able to pick the options from Xanatar's Guide to Everything as well. So Matt, it essentially gives you more options when you have the source books on the relevant platforms. So weapons, no. Weapons is available to everyone via the basic rules. Spells, yes. There are some spells that are from, like, specifically unique to Xanatar's Guide to Everything. So if you do not have the Xanatar's Guide to Everything book, you would not have access to those spells. Still opening the floor for questions if anyone would like to ask. Okay. That's a good question, DJ. I'll get to your question, Matt, after this. So, if, let's say, you would like to run games like, for example, Curse of Strahd, without buying the adventure on D&D Beyond, that is totally possible. Because you could basically pop on over to your preferred virtual tabletop, set up the relevant maps and whatnot, put in the monster information yourself, and you're good to go. But if you do have the source book, obviously it gives you more options. For example, I do own Curse of Strahd, so let's just quickly tap into something that I do not want to spoil anybody, so let's quickly just pop in here. Okay, so over here, as you can see, that when you purchase source books, a digital source book, you get links. So for example, if I want to set up the token, or I want to have the stat block for Bildrath, I can instantly just click and I can see, okay, he is a commoner and I have his stat block here. So if you like, if let's say you are running it without anything, you could just screenshot this or copy it down or something, or even print this page if you want. But you can see that I do have, Foundry has pretty decent integrations with D&D Beyond. So I am able to import the commoner into Foundry. And so if I click import, give it a few seconds, and it's done. So if I come back in here, you can see that it's imported into my world. And come in here, go to D&D Beyond, monster, humanoid, and you can see commoner. All the stat blocks are added into the virtual tabletop. I would assume this is also the same for Roll20 and Fantasy Grounds. You would be able to do that as well. Are there any other popular rule sets? Okay, hold on, I'll get to Matt's question first. Will it spoil the game for me as a player? Okay, so Matt, obviously as a player, you would not want to read the adventure books because you will spoil the story for yourself. But source books, however, source books being the player's handbook or maybe Xanatar's Guide to Everything, you can purchase them if you are interested and read through everything, because the rules of the game and extra spells and whatnot, it's all available inside those books. For a tip for those who are brand new to D&D, as a first book to buy, if you are very interested, I would recommend getting the Player's Handbook. That would be your main reference source for a lot of things. With the Player's Handbook alone, you essentially have you essentially have the whole entire thing already. Everything else is just an add-on. It's DLC. Okay, back to Rage Quit. So any other popular rule sets in Malaysia besides D&D? So if you're interested in exploring different types of role-playing games, there is this group that I know called A Good Day to Dice, if I'm not wrong. Yes, A Good Day to Dice. So they host monthly meetups, and I think for this month, July, they are hosting a digital event, and they play a bunch of different games. So let me have a look in discussion here. You can have a look. If it would load for me. Yes, so they have Stonehell, The Black Rose, Damn the Man, Save the Music. These are games that I've never seen before, but they are all RPG games. And if you're interested, go have a look. Check them out. I'll quickly paste the link in chat for you, for those who are interested. No problem, man. Alright, anyone have any more questions? I'll probably take a couple more and we'll wrap things up. Alright, Rage Quit. So Mike, tips on running a successful fun session. Ultimately, I would say just make sure that everyone's comfortable. So I have run multiple games online digitally and I found that if you set it up for your players as much as possible so that they would not need to worry about, you know, what do I do here, what do I do there, they would have a fun time. Because as a player, if you're playing, if 80% of the time you're wondering what do I click, how this doesn't work for me, that's not going to be a really fun time for you. So I would recommend, if you're running digital games, to do some research, do some homework, test it out yourselves. As I set up my Foundry games, you can see that I have a list of players. These are just test players right now. But I would basically log in with my player's account and actually have a look and make sure everything's set up for each and every player so that when I need them to click on certain things, it is there for them. And okay, Galit, let's have a look. For Adventurous League, do they play outside of Faerun type campaigns? Yes, there are Adventurous League sessions that run in regions outside of Faerun. I'm pretty sure there are adventures. If you want a whole different setting, there is the Eberron setting. That's like steampunk D&D, old school mafia noir type, if you're interested in that. There is also Wildermount, but Wildermount is not Adventurous League legal. For Adventurous League legal content, it would be Forgotten Realms or Eberron for now. That I know of. I'm not sure. Okay, Matt, let's have a look. Wondering... No! Right, so Matt asked me like, am I getting am I getting more tips if I help make this grow, this community bigger? No, definitely not. This is all done volunteer. It's volunteer, and obviously as a DM, I would want more players to play, because if there are no players, there is nobody for me to share my games with. So obviously I would like to have more people in the community. And Osama has asked, have you done any Shadowrun sessions? I'm not sure what Shadowrun is. Is it D&D or is it a different game itself? Oh, okay, it's a different role-playing game. No, I have not. I have not heard of Shadowrun before. And let's see, will it help you grow this community if there are more? Oh, okay, as in, I don't quite get what you mean there, Matt. Okay, let's have a look at Mew. How long does the D&D sessions usually run for? Okay, how does the commitment about it work? Alright, that's an excellent question. I'll get to your question shortly, Rage. So Mew, D&D sessions, generally they last for 3 to 4 hours, okay? And in terms of commitment, again, it depends on your group. Some people like to play one-shots, where it's just a single one-time session. I play for 4 hours, it's the entire adventure from start to finish, and I'm done. That way there's no commitment, I'm just committing my 4 hours. There are some people who also like to play in a campaign setting, and that would mean that you would play for one session and you come back the next week because the story continues and you would want to join in for the next couple of sessions as well. Again, this is depending on your DM. I always would recommend you speak to your DM and discuss what sort of game you like to play. But having said that, general D&D sessions are 3 to 4 hours. There are groups that play shorter. Heck, I think there are even groups that play for... Okay, 1 hour is kind of pushing it. I don't think you'll get to play a lot in 1 hour. But I do run 2-hour sessions for people who are like working. So like maybe after work you come back, have your dinner, and then come in for a quick 2-hour session, and then you're done. So those types of session takes less commitment because you're just spending 2 hours a week playing a game. Alright, let's move on to Rage. What do you enjoy about being a DM? What do I enjoy about being a DM? Okay, this is a very interesting question. So, professionally, I am a product designer. So what that means is I build products, digital products, apps mainly. I specialize in apps. So I design apps and also some websites from time to time. So in my work, I build a thing for people to use, and I need to think, like, for example, if you're signing up for something, you obviously need to know, okay, maybe you need your email or you need your password and whatnot. And then I also have to think, okay, where's the button to submit all this information then? How do I go next to the next step and stuff like that? So these things are constantly running through my head throughout my entire career. And when I get back home, I love to game. And D&D gives me the opportunity to explore what I love doing at work in a game. And that is basically why I love DMing so much. It's because I get to create an experience for each of my players to play. And it doesn't even matter. It doesn't even need to be a story that I wrote. But say it's a pre-written adventure. I like to run pre-written adventures because I don't have time to write an entire adventure. So with that, I read the whole entire story and I get to think, like, okay, how can I lead them here, and how can they explore and find their way here and whatnot. So there are so many things that come into play, and I love that. And that's basically what drives me. Okay, let's see. DJ. For virtual DMing, do you use proper mics and video setups? Okay, so I would recommend if you do plan on DMing virtually, or even as a player, I do recommend getting a good pair of headset and microphone. I would say your mic is probably the most important, because when you speak, especially as a DM, when you speak, your players will need to hear you clear. And if you're gonna spend, I mean, think about it, as a player, if you're gonna spend the next 2 to 3 hours listening to this guy speak, or girl, and it's just background noise everywhere, and it's just like static noises every time he or she speaks, that's not gonna be a very pleasant experience. So if you do plan on virtual DMing, I would recommend to use a proper mic. In terms of video, I think video is entirely optional. I have tried and run sessions with video call, but I found that video calling while using a virtual tabletop can be pretty hardware intensive for some players, and it's even hardware intensive for me, so my computer lags a little bit when I run that. So I decided to do away with it, and I just run voice audio. Okay, Matt has asked, how long have I been playing D&D? And to be honest, I have not played for a very long time actually. I have only started playing D&D this year. And immediately after I started playing and learning the rules, I wanted to DM. I knew that I wanted to DM. I have more fun DMing compared to being a player. Although from time to time I do hop in as a player as well. And let's move on to Mew. Do you need to prepare anything if you're planning to play a game? Written characters or anything. Okay, so that's a very good question as well. When you sign up for a digital game, it is always recommended that you speak to your DM before the session and ask him or her if he or she would want you to come prepared with your character sheet. So that's important, because we don't want to start the session and let's say you have 4 players and 3 players already have their character sheets prepared, and 1 player is just there like, oh sorry, I'll need to create my character now, and yeah, and then the other 3 will need to wait. So do speak with your DM. Do speak with your DM for that. Okay, DJ, just thinking about the financial commitment. I would say that if you are used to pen and paper, it is totally fine. There isn't a huge financial commitment to DMing virtually, because I have run a game where my friend who DM'd for us, he basically ran it through Discord, and literally all of us, we were rolling our own dices. He was rolling his own dice, physical dice. He was rolling his own physical dice. We were rolling our own physical dice. And we basically just say like our rolls. Like he'll be like, okay, roll for attack. And I roll, and yeah, I'll tell him like, oh, I rolled a 17. And then he'll be like, okay, that hits. And then, you know, he jots it down on pen and paper. So basically we're just doing a Zoom call, like a Discord call, and just playing D&D virtually. Okay, Dolly asks, do you have any preset rules for players before starting a game? I am not that's a very general question. It would depend on what game you're playing. So for example, if we're running D&D and we are playing Adventurers League, so there would be certain rules that I would let my players know before making their character, because there are some rules as you're creating your character. And maybe, okay, speaking of preset rules, I would say I would call it a session 0. So for those who are unfamiliar with what a session 0 is, it basically means that before you start your game with your DM, everyone should sit together and talk and discuss what game would we like to play. So maybe as a DM, I would ask my players, what are you expecting to play, or what are you expecting to have in our sessions? And maybe some players would be like, I would like to have more roleplay scenarios because I like role playing. And you get maybe another player who says, I like more combat. I like it to be intense and filled with action. And sure, that works. And so as a DM, it would tell the DM what your expectations are as a player. And as the DM, he or she would also know what to prepare for your sessions. Maybe if the adventure is more combat centric, he might dim it down a little bit and allow for more diplomatic solutions to allow for more role-playing encounters. And so I would say that having a session 0 is very important. As a DM, if you like to run a session 0, you should ask questions like, what are the boundaries, as in terms of jokes, what kind of jokes are okay, because I don't know, there may be kids in your session, so you want to cater for that and you want to talk it out and make sure everyone's on the same page, because you don't want someone saying something offending another person, and yeah, it's going to be a mess. So it's good to have session 0 and discuss everything beforehand. Okay, let's see. Rage Quit. What's good player etiquette in a session? You mentioned coming prepared with character sheets. I would say that good player etiquette, it translates from your physical tables. So obviously, if you're at a physical table playing with your DMs, you wouldn't want to be playing with your phone or surfing other websites and not paying attention, you know? So I would say that good player etiquette would be concentrating on your session, staying focused, and essentially thinking about others during the session as well. Because some players tend to try to steal the spotlight for themselves all the time. And if you are DMing, it's good to always even out the table. Give everyone a chance to act on certain things. And yes, those are pretty good questions. Anyone else have any questions? Alright, if not, I will wrap up for today. And a huge thank you for everyone who came. I hope that each of you learned something. For those of you who are brand new, if you'd like to get integrated into the community, or find a group, feel free to DM me. I'll gladly guide you through. If you'd like to make a new character or not, just send me a message. We could talk things out. And yes, I hope that everyone had a good time here. I will stick around in case anyone else has any questions, so I'll stick around, but feel free. Our session has concluded, and that is all for tonight. So for those who are leaving, good night. Thank you for coming, and I'll see you around. You're welcome everyone.